Evening, good afternoon, wherever you are watching us from. You are live on the Fasa show on the Gambian Talents TV. Pa Usman Diouf presenting it to you. Live here from Seattle, Washington. The time is 12 p.m. midday. I am honored to have a special guest, just like I always tell you guys. Fasa is not a show that I bring everyone to. It's a show that I feature special people who are doing extremely well and extraordinary things for the Gambia. And of course, I am honored to bring to you Mr. Dawda Fadera, His Excellency, the Gambia's ambassador to the United States. Mr. Fadera, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you very much for having me.
Glad to have you in Seattle.
Thank you. It's good to be here. It's a great place.
Yes. Your first time to Seattle, or have you been?
My very first time here. I've heard about Seattle quite a long time, but I've not had the opportunity to come here. So this is my very first time here. I'm so glad to be here.
Nice. Is it that this is your first time to the U.S. altogether, or you have
not quite
to the U.S. but you haven't been to Seattle?
I've been around in the U.S., but basically in New York and Washington for official missions.
Okay.
But this is the first time now I'm going around the United States, where the Gambian communities are concentrated.
Yes, that's very good. Well, we are glad to have you. Gambian Talents is glad to also host you for this interview so that we can talk to the people about the Gambian embassy, what is happening. But to start with, if you were to tell a world who don't know Dawda Fadera, we've been hearing about you. So much noise when President Barrow took over, and we've had the ambassador to the US have been chosen, Mr. Fadera, and he's here. People hear about you but didn't know you. Possibly this is your first media appearance, right?
I do have a couple of media appearances in the Gambia, but in the US this is my first time.
Okay. So we are glad to be the first people to host Mr. Fadera.
Indeed.
So if you were to tell an audience who don't know you, what would you tell them? Who is Dawda Fadera?
I am a Gambian, an ordinary Gambian. I hail from Kiang.
Kian. Kian Kolomus.
Kiang, yes. Kiang Nema.
Kian Kolum Keparit.
Absolutely. That's what we do. That's what we do. I went to school in Kiang. That's where I did my primary school.
Okay.
And then from there, I proceeded to St. Augustine's High School. Okay. And I did my secondary education.
Rector Sapere.
Yes, exactly. And then a few years after my advanced level, I was lucky to go to university in Fasa College. Remember, in those days, Gambia had no university. Okay. So most of us who couldn't go to America or UK, we find our way to Fasa College. It's a very good university. That's where I studied. And I studied political science and history. Okay. From there I returned, and then I joined the public service. Okay. Even prior to my departure to the university, I worked in public service. I was lecturing at the Gambia College. And I also taught in some secondary schools too. So I was a teacher.
Oh, okay. So all of his ex-students, here is your former teacher, right?
Quite a number, yes. And then finally I worked for Ministry of Education. Okay. The project side. And then joined PMO in 95.
95?
This is 1995.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And I worked there up to 2016.
Okay.
So I rose through the ranks and became permanent secretary.
Oh, at PMO?
PMO, yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And then when the new government took over, I was honored to be appointed as the first Secretary General to work with the new government. Okay. Up until my appointment as ambassador, that was the position I held. Okay. So that's who I am.
Oh, so you were Secretary General. For how long did you serve in the position?
Almost 1 year.
Almost 1 year, okay.
It has been a very fruitful 1 year for me. Imagine the new government just taking over. It was a big honor for me to work with them, to use my experience in public service to help what I can at the time to make sure they settle down properly. So I did whatever I could to ensure that we get people back to work. Remember, during the First Republic, quite a number of public servants have been laid off, some in most cases illegally by the former president. And one of the major objectives of this government is to ensure that they bring people back to work, bring reconciliation, and I played my role in that as effectively as I could. And also, I'm sure you know about this, during that the last 22 years, much of the powers were concentrated under the office of the president. And the new government, under the leadership of President Barrow, did not want that to happen. They want to empower the sectors. Rather than everything under the office of the president, he wanted to make sure that the sectors are empowered and take ownership of their mandate, so that also the president can focus on its core functions as it should be. So I also was proud to be part of that process, and we did as much as we could to help that process move forward.
That is good to hear, Mr. Fadera, Your Excellency. But you said you started at PMO what year?
95.
95. So you rose through the ranks. Can you tell us what positions you held? I mean, over the years, you ended up being permanent secretary.
Absolutely.
Prior to that, can you walk us through your ranks that you've passed through at PMO?
I started as a personnel officer.
Okay.
Position I held for almost 3 years.
Okay.
And then got promoted to the senior personnel officer.
Okay.
Again, held on to that post for nearly 3 to 4 years again. And then moved to principal level, principal personnel officer, and then deputy PS.
Okay.
So I served for deputy PS for almost 7 years. And then finally got promoted to the permanent secretary until my disappointment.
Okay. Good to hear. Civil servants, we always hear that the permanent secretary is one of the most important positions in the civil service. You are supposed to be the technocrat, the person that knows. Can you briefly tell us what the role of a permanent secretary is?
Permanent secretary, PMO, is a very important function because PMO, permanent secretary, is the principal technical advisor to the Secretary General.
Okay.
So PMO lead the way when it comes to the public administration, ensuring that the recruitment of qualified and deserving Gambians in public service done properly in accordance with the public service regulations and other laws of the Gambia. PMO also leads the way, working with the public service commission in terms of promotions and also capacity building. So we work with all the sectors to ensure that they have training plans and identify people properly for training that are relevant to their sectors. And PMO really, that's where the funds were concentrated, and we utilize that to ensure that we train the public servants for the role for which they are appointed to public service.
Yeah, but yeah, Your Excellency, we heard the corruption is too much at PMO. A lot of PMO officers work at the PMO for a year or two. We see them driving nice cars, building big houses. They say there's a lot of corruption at PMO. Of course, people getting rewarded based on nepotism, based on connection and the like. Of course, it's often said in Gambia, that's how people get connected. Is this really true? What message do you have for people who have this belief and this notion?
The issue of corruption, let me first deal with that. I think that is absolutely not true for PMO. Because those who work in the public service, they know. PMO is often referred to as the driest sector in the public service. What we deal with at PMO is the poorest sector of society. That's the public servants. The civil servants, they don't have money. So PMO,
rewarding people, giving people appointments, giving people...
I'm coming because in the public service, if you come for promotion or for appointment, you don't have money. But those who are coming looking for jobs, they don't even have money for themselves.
Yeah, but
they want to enter the public service. So those are the people you deal with. And those who are going for training, there's no way you could, milk people out of money out of civil servants. Our salaries are very low. So how much money are you going to get from public servants to give them promotion or give them recruitment in the public service? It's not there.
Let me give you an
what
example.
we deal with at PMO is the files. We have voluminous files that we deal with. And until recently, most people don't want to work at PMO. I think perhaps because of these reasons. Because there is no way, we don't have projects, we don't have, all we have is funding for training.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
And you can only use that money only for training.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
When you pay for tuitions, you pay directly to institutions, not even to the individual. So what you pay to
so there are no incentives, nothing that goes to the individual that you can have. I'll give you an example. My institution, for example, Gambian Talents, wrote to an institution in the Gambia for sponsorship. And the person who is actually supposed to approve our package told us that he has to get 25% cut from the budget that we submitted if he's to approve it. I mean, things like that. Is that not possible at PMO, where the person working at PMO can actually, I mean, get incentives like that? You help somebody to get a training package, and it includes like per diems and few things, and the person comes back. I don't know. That's not possible at PMO.
No, because you see, training you don't pay per diem.
Okay.
In training you pay stipend. And the stipend that's paid to the civil servants is very low. So imagine sending people to UK or to the US or to Ghana or anywhere around the world with low per diem stipend, and you also want to cut up from that. It's not even possible. That one is completely out of the way. You cannot do that.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's just the people thinking and believing that, well, oh, I owe it to you because Gambia, we believe in that. Okay, you do them that favor, they want to owe you their life, or you think they owe you your
the incentive. Their life. The incentive we have at PMO is kind of promotions. Okay. Because at PMO, that's where promotions are determined. So usually, if you enter the public service with another person the same year, and the person works elsewhere, and you work at PMO, the chances are that you might go a little bit above him. Even though he might, they probably have more budgets where they travel and other issues. But PMO, you also have that kind of advantage. You probably can get faster promotion. Okay.
All right.
Which didn't happen in my own case.
Okay. Well, fair enough. You are watching the Fasa show on the Gambian Talents TV. My guest is His Excellency Mr. Dawda Fadera, Gambia's current ambassador to the United States. And he's worked, in the civil service and has worked his way up through the ranks. And of course, and he's just sharing some of those things. Being at PMO and some of the things that we hear in the Gambia about civil service and some of the things that we see, one can easily imagine that it runs across the board. Mr. Fadera is denying that in the case of, the PMO. He said that that doesn't exist at the PMO, and we'll take his word for it. Now, I ask you, as the permanent secretary, what was your responsibility as permanent secretary, if we should just fast forward?
At PMO?
Yes. You were permanent secretary at PMO until your appointment as Secretary General. So tell us your responsibility as a permanent secretary.
Basically, is to provide leadership for public service on behalf of the Secretary General. We coordinate the activities of the sectors. We engage them in the public service reform and also ensure that they have reasonable capacity to be able to undertake the functions for which they are set up to do. We also take part in the implementation of the regulatory environment. Individuals in public service, if you have issues with your heads of department, they report them to PMO. So PMO does a lot of negotiations and try to reconcile sectors when there are differences. And if necessary, we forward it to the Public Service Commission. If needs be, if there's a need for disciplinary measures, they are taken at the level of the Public Service Commission. But we do a lot of back channel discussions with sectors and their employees just to ensure that decorum exists and that people abide by the regulatory environment.
So in short, no director can just not like their employee and say, I'm going to terminate your service.
It doesn't, it cannot happen. Because in the first place, you do not appoint your employees. Okay. All appointments are centralized on the PMO through Public Service Commission. So heads of departments, when they have vacancies, the only thing they can do is notify us. When you notify PMO, PMO will also send to Public Service Commission. Public Service Commission is the authority that does the appointments. Okay. So they will give us the okay for the position to be filled, and ideally we will get the position advertised. When it is advertised, the people apply at PMO and PSC, and all the files will be put together and forwarded to the director, the head of department who has the vacancy, where the vacancy occurs. So the role you do there is to help do the shortlisting. You do the first shortlisting.
Okay.
And you also don't do that using your own discretion. There's a guideline. There's a guideline that you follow to ensure that those who do not meet the set out requirements are not shortlisted. And when you do the shortlist, you forward the file back to PMO.
But is corruption still not, nepotism still not possible when you give it to them?
No, because you have to submit both the long list and the shortlist.
Okay. So, but then if you guys don't know the relationship of the person and the director, and they happen to shortlist a family member or their girlfriend or somebody, how will you guys know? Because they apparently maybe they meet the qualification same as the other candidates.
So that's it. So if anybody meets the requirement, whether they are relatives or not, they are supposed to be shortlisted.
Okay.
So shortlisting is one step towards recruitment.
Okay.
So when they are shortlisted, the files now will be forwarded to the Public Service Commission, and all those shortlisted will be called upon to come forward for interview.
Okay.
So your performance at the interview now determines.
Determines.
And you as director has no role.
You are not in the interview.
You can only observe.
That is good to know. It's good to have an expert, to talk to an expert about some of these things because they can break it down. We are here with His Excellency Dawda Fadera, the Gambia's ambassador to the United States of America. Mr. Fadera, you told us your role as a permanent secretary was to advise the Secretary General. Are you answerable to the Secretary General or are you answerable to the Minister?
No, the PMO is under no ministry.
Oh, it's under no ministry.
So the Secretary General essentially is the minister.
He's the minister for PM.
For PMO.
Okay. And you are?
PMO reports to the Secretary General.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. But all other permanent secretaries report to their ministers. Okay. All right. That's clear now. It's good to know. Now you started your career as a civil servant during former President Yahya Jammeh.
During Dawda.
Oh, during Dawda. You said 95.
No. You said 95. I joined the PMO.
Oh, you joined PMO.
I was a teacher and I was also a lecturer at the Gambia College.
At Gambia College. Okay. But then
and also worked at Ministry of Education.
Ministry of Education. Okay.
For the Republic.
Okay, but then you started like being in the full service and central government. I mean, during Yahya Jammeh's time. How was that, especially being that your office had to do with his office? Some of these appointments you are talking about, he's been accused of hiring a lot of his family members, putting them in public positions and the like. I mean, were you aware of these appointments? I mean, because these are appointments that were actually questioned. Is it true that he used his powers to actually put his family members in positions that he wanted, especially those top positions?
Well, during the First Republic, one of the hallmarks of the Second Republic, if I may call it now, although we don't have the Third Republic yet,
yes,
is that much of the powers invested in these sectors, in the public service, were hijacked and concentrated on the Office of the President. This also includes recruitment. So still, PMO and Public Service Commission continue to do a lot of recruitment, but some of the key positions were principally decided at the Office of the President.
Okay. So
in that case, the executive director will come from the President to Secretary General, to PMO, to Public Service Commission, simply for concurrence, and the appointment will be effected. So those who are appointed are those that would have been identified by the President.
No, Jamal, directive. These days, directives are too common. We are hearing executive directives too much. We are hearing too much of the executive directives. It's executive directive. We are looking at the commission, the General Commission.
People appointed through executive directive. They were also removed through executive directives.
And you guys couldn't do anything.
There's nothing anybody can do.
So I'll see the wrong letter or now a phone call, sometimes verbal.
Not verbal, no.
It was all written.
It has to be written. Anything that comes to the public service must be recorded.
So there was no verbal, I mean, appointment or dismissal.
No. Maybe to the Secretary General, perhaps.
Okay.
But Secretary General has to write
to PMO.
The Secretary General cannot issue a verbal.
Give us a couple of names. Mele Alonko Inade, what Office of the President. Mele Alonko, they were directives.
Quite a number.
Give me three.
No, basically, the most appointments of permanent secretaries comes from the office of the president.
Permanent secretaries
and directors, and also chief of security service also comes from the office of the president.
And ministers as well.
Well, ministers are not public servants; they are politicians. So they don't even come at all at PMO.
Oh, ministerial appointments don't come to PMO.
That is a level of politics.
Okay, that's political appointment.
PMO simply deals, public service deals simply
from the permanent secretary. Okay, permanent secretary coming down. Okay. Altrola Moinyola Badingolina Padigandor. I mean, we are trying to break down the Gambian civil service and how it works. And of course, this is an expert who was there. Did you see any appointment that was sent to you and you knew this wasn't right and your consent wasn't clear, but directives, like you said, you have to do it to save yourself?
Yeah.
And you could have, in a case in which you could have acted differently, I mean, or given a different advice.
Absolutely.
But you just went ahead and went with the flow.
Yeah, sure. Because ordinarily, recruitment is done through complicated bidding. So when positions are vacant, they should advertise for all qualified Gambians to apply. And then the successful candidate will be recruited. And the most responsive candidate will be recruited by the Public Service Commission. But in the case of executive directives, there is no such advertisement in the first place. So it simply comes to one person and you ask to ensure that the person is appointed. So sometimes what happens is that we don't even have the profile of the individual.
Wow.
So for example, if your name comes, just simply your name and your address and your telephone number, and you are asked to appoint you for a particular position. And all the positions in the public service, there is a scheme of service. So there are requirements. Every position, you have to satisfy a particular requirement to get there. Now, if I don't have your profile, how do I determine that you merit that particular position? Very important. So when you miss such cases, sometimes that can be very disturbing. But very little anybody can do. It has to be done.
Wow.
At that time.
That is interesting to know. So would you say then those executive directives from former President Yahya Jammeh is responsible for the poor performance of the public service to a great extent? Because a lot of, as you said, the leaders or the technicians in those positions, permanent secretaries, directors, etc., were actually coming directly from the office of the president. If that is the case, those people are supposed to set the pace and be the leaders in those places and make things work and bring about the change. So if those people were not competent enough, would you attribute the failure of the civil service then to those, appointments?
Yeah, there are combinations of issues that leads to the low performance of public service. I will say the first blow to public service was the exodus of qualitative human capital from the system. Because in those days, people who were very experienced and qualified but did not agree with the system were
removed,
dismissed. And those who were not dismissed, but they were around, they were not given the opportunity to exercise their professional judgment, to do things as it should be. So they were constrained, and some of them also left because of the environment, work environment.
People like you stayed though.
Some of us stayed. Some of us stayed because not all of us could leave. I was taken out too myself.
I'm coming to that.
I'm
coming to that. I will come to that. I did my research on you.
I know. So no, not everybody could go. You know, because Gambia belongs to all of us. If you stay, those who stay, they stay at a great risk because quite a number were taken to prison,
victimized at the end of the day,
and taken to prison for virtually doing nothing. You know, so every day you go to work, you don't know whether you're going to go home.
So we are hearing this a lot from civil servants who serve.
The hotel.
We are hearing a lot from civil servants who serve in the Second Republic. We are hearing this statement a lot, that every morning when they wake up, They going to work, they don't know if they will return home. And if they come home, they don't know if they will return back to work the next day. You are making a similar decision. You were in the same shoes too?
Yeah, well, everybody.
You kind of bid farewell to your family every morning when you leave?
I think virtually everybody. You know, I worked in the First Republic, and I know how things happen in the First Republic. You know, those days when you go to people's office, particularly senior officers, you know, they kind of, you see family photos, you try to, you know, set up the office, you know, personalized in a way, because you are emotionally attached to the office. You're sure that you're going to work there for quite a number of times.
You are assured.
That's there always. But during this last 22 years, most people don't even go with a handbag to office. There is nothing in your office. If they ask you to go, you simply walk out through the door. That's it.
Wow.
So in that way, imagine your commitment also to the programs and projects of the sector. It will not be quite solid because, you know, you are in between.
Yeah, but was your consent clear though? Was your consent clear? Did you sit at any point, Kapo, do I leave? What actions do I take? How do I go about quitting or whatever? Was your action, was your consent clear?
You know the country belongs to all of us.
But you are betraying the country to some extent, sir.
No, you're not, because...
Imagine you are doing things that are against the interest of the public. Just for example, by hiring somebody that is not qualified when you could have recommended against that, and you didn't. You followed the directives. Yes. Was your consent clear?
No, your consent is not clear in that. But what's important is the greater part of work that you do is in the best interest of the country. Because, you know, the executive appointments usually affect top. Of course, leadership matters. But, you know, there's a lot of appointments, promotions, and other activities that you undertake in the way it should, in your best judgment in the public service. So you do those on your own, and you're happy
but
to
then
do that.
you
know, you are building the foundation for today. You see, when this thing took place, you see, if you look at other countries, if you look at Iraq, if you look at some other countries after the fall of a long-term dictator, the public service completely collapsed. In the case of Gambia, it didn't happen that way. Not only because the new government did not pursue that path policy of destroying the public service, but also because there is a foundation. There are people, you know, public servants who have been recruited properly and who are exposed to training and they were coached and they know the core values of the public service, and they stayed on.
So in other words, those people just didn't have the conducive environment to do their work, but they know the job.
They were there.
But they know the job.
They were there. Now they are the ones who are today helping
Mr. Dawda Fadera.
So you are proud to be part of that.
Okay.
Although you are unhappy that there are other components
that you are doing wrong,
you know, under executive directive.
But a lot of your critics keep insisting that you had a choice to leave. Did you really have a choice?
You know,
or was it that some will argue that you guys were just selfish? Alkala interested, that's where you were getting paid, and that you cannot leave. If you leave, of course, you are already established. You have your job, you have your car, you have your family. If you leave, where will you go? You cannot leave your family from scratch. That's how some people are seeing it. That some of you were just selfish and just following your interests to the detriment of the country, because some of those key positions were being utilized by former President Yahya Jammeh to actually do the things that he wanted them to do for him. For example, write the big checks that we are hearing at the commission now. It was those directors who made those checks. It was those permanent secretaries who signed those checks. I mean, that we are not in the interest, especially in the case of, let's say, for example, social security and all other places, ports and all other places that we are hearing all these, big things. So if those appointments were done by you, or you have a hand in that, don't you think you have betrayed Gambians?
Okay, let's unpack that. I tell you something. You watch the commissions. In the civil service, there are fundamental procedures and guidelines that must be followed in whatever you do. I always tell people, in the public service, civil service in particular, there is no discretion.
Okay.
Everything has to be rooted in either policy or an act or a general order. It has to be regulated somehow.
On paper.
So on paper and also even in terms of finances that you're talking about, you see, there's a difference between the civil service and public enterprises.
Okay.
We are all under public service, but the code of conduct, the rules of engagement are different.
For the public enterprises and the public service.
Yes. Where you work in the civil service and where we recruit people from, you haven't heard much of Yajame using the directors and the permanent secretaries to access fund Gambia government money. It's going to
where would you categorize social security, for example?
That is
an
a public
enterprise?
enterprise.
Okay, ports is a public enterprise.
Central bank,
central bank, all of
enterprise.
Okay.
So they're not necessarily directly under.
So under
the civil service, if you want to get money out, it goes through a very tight channel.
Okay.
And at different levels. So everybody will know, and I think Ajame knows about that. So
Amanjema back.
No, you haven't heard much about that, have you?
Yeah, that's true. No. It's good to know. So, well, I mean, fast forward. I mean, he removed you from your duties a couple of times. What did you do?
I, just like many others who have been sent out, I was not told exactly what I did, but what I heard was that he was told that I was using my office to recruit people from the opposition sympathizers' families.
Oh, okay.
You know, so how true this is, I don't know.
But can one say that is true now that we see you appointed as the ambassador for the opposition?
No.
Can that be true? People, what would be a reaction to people who will see it that way?
You know, for me, Mr. Juf, I see public service as a very important institution for the Gambia and for any country. And for any country to transition to development, you have to have a very strong public service. The values of public service must be strong, and you must have the qualified people to run the place.
So, to the best of your knowledge, you never...
To the best of my knowledge and ability during my time, I try as much as I could to ensure that, you know, judgments are not colored by parochial considerations, like tribes or related relations. That is not important.
So were you an underground opposition? You were just in the system by the UDP?
No, I wasn't.
Were you APRC?
I wasn't in public. I hardly vote. At that time. Yeah, because I didn't see it even as important to vote.
Really?
Yes.
And now you are in the political position.
Yeah. In those days, it's not easy because, you know, a lot of people don't have faith in the system of voting. So a lot of people thought that, well, it doesn't work. I don't think, you know, like Adam Barrow had said, many people thought that this change could not come again to the ballot box. But eventually it did. So perhaps I was also guilty of that. So I was not active in politics.
Okay.
You know, I don't attend political rallies. I don't attend.
But deep in your heart, who were you sympathizing? Who you?
I wanted change.
You wanted change.
I wanted change.
And you voted for Adam. You voted for Adam.
Well,
2016.
But the important thing is that I wanted change. I think every, you know, well-meaning Gambian wanted a change. You know, we want to have freedom. We want to have democracy. We want respect for human rights. We don't want people to be arbitrarily dismissed from their
so to a great extent, you were not happy with the system.
I think
so. Will you be considered? What would you? Would we be right to say that when Yahya was about to leave and all those presidents came, he said, "Now I know who my friends are." When people started showing their true colors and everybody chickening out, would he be right to say that? Okay, well, you were not one of his true friends. One of his true loyals.
Well, because even during his time, you would not see me with any party apparatus. I don't do that. So I'm a very disciplined public servant.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go to your civil service. The time is against us. I know you are a very busy man. You as the head of the civil service, when Adam Barrow came, I mean, did they trust you in the first place to make you the Secretary General? You were the first Secretary General under the Adam Barrow administration. Was there that trust? Did they know whether you were still loyal to Yaya or you were loyal to them? Did you see any sign of distrust when you were hired?
No, I didn't see that. I think because this is a very important position, I don't think in the first place you will appoint somebody you don't trust. And I know this is a very serious government. They did their vetting. They would have looked at everything and come to a conclusion that this person is somebody we think we can rely on and work with. So I didn't feel it that way.
But a lot of people had the notion that, okay, a lot of the positions hired by President Adam Barrow were politically motivated, I mean, tribally motivated and the like. I mean, if you look through the list from the way people are analyzing it, I mean, a lot of people would think that, okay, well, because Mr. Fadera is a Mandinka or two, maybe because he was underground UDP doing his thing. I mean, all of these things have been said. So what is your reaction? I mean, did you apply like any other Gambian, like you said, and then you were shortlisted? Did you personally apply or were you offered the position?
I don't want to go into the details of how that has happened, but I can assure you that the new government has spent a lot of time vetting CVs. Quite a number of people submitted CVs, including mine.
Okay, so you submitted your CV.
A lot of CVs were submitted, so they looked at that, and they have their own vetting system, and they did that. And I wouldn't agree with you that the appointments were kind of
politically, tribally motivated.
No, I don't know what list you are looking at. But if you look at what we have, even when I was there myself, I felt that I was doing something right. Because I noticed that sometimes other people come and say, oh, this person is only appointing Mandingo people. And then I know also that there are other people who also come to me, you are only appointing the Fullers and So for me, that's not important. Just get the people who can do the job and who have the requisite profiles for a particular opening, let them be on that.
During your 1 year of being Secretary General, what would you consider an achievement that you have done?
It's very difficult.
You haven't accomplished anything?
I'm coming. It's very difficult where this government started. There has been virtually nothing in place because the public service has been sidelined completely. This government came in wanting to ensure that rule of law and freedom, fundamental freedoms are put in place. And the civil servants and the public generally also really want to make sure that their rights are respected. So there was kind of euphoria in the system. People kind of, how do I best describe this? I always tell people, Gambia was more like a one big prison. And everybody was inside the prison.
But what have you accomplished?
Suddenly, I'm coming there, suddenly, you realize that the oxygen in the prison is running short. And then there is a small opening for people to get out.
Okay. So what have you accomplished?
So it was confusion.
Yeah, time is not on your side. So that's why I want you to get to that. What you have accomplished.
The most important thing for me, when I look back, is that our ability to provide justice, some justice and reconciliation for public servants was very, very important.
And did you accomplish that?
We did that because, like I told you, quite a number of people have been taken out illegally.
Oh, so you were able to bring back
a good number. Bring them back.
Okay.
To come and work for government. Some were out for 10 years, some 5 years, some 4 years, and they were dismissed.
That's good.
So, ordinarily, when you bring such people back to work, by law, you are supposed to compensate them for the days and months and the years that they were sitting at home because they were illegally dismissed. But we have been able to conduct a successful negotiation with them through a committee I set up and I care. To say, look, this is time for reconciliation. This country belongs to all of us. We want you to come back and work. but forget about what. Let's forget about the past.
So you
don't come back and ask for back pay of years that you are sitting at home. And most, patriotic Gambians, they agree. Okay. They came back. Okay. Go to work. And we're happy they at work.
Nice. So President Barrow did not bypass you during your term as Secretary General. He did not use his powers to bypass you. He allowed you to do your job as you were allowed by law to the best of your knowledge and ability.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. President Barrow has said that many times in public that he trusts the technicians.
Yes, I heard that.
He always said that. So, and I know he's somebody who listens to the technicians. Which I think is also fair. Something we haven't had the opportunity to do before.
I would have asked you a few questions on that, but your protocols are signaling me that time is going. But these are some important questions that are important for you to answer. I mean, he has said that a lot of times. I mean, and it is important. We've heard him say it. Now, your appointment as ambassador came a year later. That, of course, is considered as a political appointment. As America is a very important country that Gambia deals with, by the way, so to appoint you there, it must be something. But what would be your reaction to people who will take this appointment as a demotion? You are called the Secretary General and head of the civil service, which means everybody else is under you, we're under you. Now, for you to be taken out of that position and made an ambassador, what would be your reaction to people who will see that as a demotion?
No, I wouldn't see it as a demotion. You don't compare apples and oranges. Secretary General position is the head of the public service. We all work on the Secretary General. I work on the Secretary General. But this is a new environment for me. As a person, all my life has been in public administration. From 1994 to 2016. That's quite a long time. So I personally wanted some change. And this has been my dream for a long time, to serve as a chief diplomat of my country in a foreign country.
But civil servant, Secretary General is a higher position. Adu did a lot of that. I mean, to 1 minute he acts you out as a civil servant minister, and the next minute he makes you a permanent. He gives you a low position, or makes them ambassador to some random country that probably you will be redundant and nobody hears about you. He basically kills you. So I mean, and some people are accusing President Barrow of following that footstep, because a lot of times people that he has removed so far is always announced that they are gonna be put under the they are put under the foreign service. We've seen that in the case of my party, we've seen that in the case of former Vice President Fatmata Tambajang and a few people, that they are going to the foreign service. Some went and some would not have gone. But in your case, of course, you are removed as Secretary General.
I can speak for myself, I will speak for others, but I can assure you that Adam Barrow is very engaging. He consults with you. He discusses with you. He wants to know what you want to do, how you can help him, what else do you want to do. And in my case, it has not been something that he just said, I want to take you there. It's something that we discussed. It's something I've discussed not only with him, but with so many other people around. Those who know me know that I got to a point where this has been my dream. I want to also serve my country in a different capacity. And I'm very happy to be here. And I found this job very exciting. And we are doing what we can to further the relationship between the Gambia and the United States.
Some people believe that the new government, of course, him having trust on you, just like Yaya, he also sent you to America so that you will be able to secure some funding for him, because some of the people are accusing President Barrow of starting to be corrupt. Just last week we heard of the 30 million that were in the First Lady's account from China, that they say they don't have a clue where it is from. So because of those things, people are losing trust. Some people are losing trust in the administration, and some would say, okay, you are brought to America so that you can help him to secure some funding that you can also divert to his account, his wife's account, and etc., things like that. What would be your reaction to things like statements like that?
No, anyone who thinks that way doesn't know America. America doesn't exist that way. This is a country of laws, and they have procedures, and it's a very transparent setup. You know about America. It's not like other countries. So, and it's not Adam Barrow. Here, my duty is to come here to to do whatever I can to ensure that we improve the relationship between the Gambia and the United States. And to ensure that we improve the relationship between the people of the America and the people of the Gambia. And to look after our Gambian citizens who are here, to see how we coordinate with them, to ensure that they also participate in the national development of the country. So that is something that's core of my concerns here, and that's exactly why I'm here today.
Okay, that's great to know. So what is your role as an ambassador? What your protocol is signaling me? How did you find the embassy when you came? In what condition did you find the Gambian embassy?
You know, like that, the Gambian embassy is just like any other second public service on their agenda. It's a very difficult place. We did not find, for example, a database of Gambians in the embassy. And I don't believe my predecessors for that. Because I know during the Gambia's time, if you ask people to come forward and register with the embassy, Gambians here, nobody will come forward. So, you know, just like sectors back home, the way they were weakened because of mismanagement and control of the State House, the same thing for the embassy here. You know, but now we are trying to move in the right direction. We want to build confidence with the Gambian people, say the embassy exists for them here. So we want for them to understand that our consular section is now completely reoriented to serve as a people-based embassy. So people who are in need of consular assistance, now they are coming forward to the embassy. And we are also going forward to meet them to find out exactly what the problems are and then see how we can collaborate with them to ease some of the difficulties that they face here. You know, so we are kind of the conduit between them and the State Department.
Yes, like you said, the relationship between the Gambian embassy and the Gambians in the United States was smeared. Over the years, we've seen a lot of Gambians going to the embassy, demonstrating and doing a good number of things. At some point, even taking ownership. The Fasa, Dugas, and others, I don't think have been to the embassy since you guys took over almost 2 years ago. And they were always frequenting the embassy, or when the president came here, always demonstrating, holding banners and stuff. I mean, have you encountered anybody? Has any people come there with some vibes of unhappiness and express concerns as that happens if you took over?
No, because my doors are open for Gambians. And we invite them to come forward at any time. We go out to meet them, but we also open the doors for people to come to the embassy and tell us what the problems are and what they want to discuss and what they want to see change. So we exist here to just ensure that we know what they want and then we forward it to the government.
Couple of important questions.
Even the individual you mentioned, I think I met him. He came to my office.
Coach, okay,
Yes.
that's very good. A couple of questions.
So we had a good meeting.
Yes, about the embassy. People want one is a change. Okay, so change you're talking about. Some people say that the ladies at the receptionist are non-Gambians and don't even speak any of the local languages. People are concerned about that when they call and they don't speak English. I mean, nobody at the embassy can address it sometimes, especially those people, and they say they are not nice to them. I mean, but they've been there at the embassy for a long time, from what we learned. I mean, are there any plans to actually put them side by side with Gambians who can speak, the local languages to address the needs of Gambians? And the issue of picking up phone calls, I'll put them all in one question. The issue of picking up phone calls, Gambians want service from the embassy, they can barely get hold of somebody. And of course, immigration services are very important. Some people don't even know what to do. Let's say you want your kids to travel to Gambia, you don't know you're supposed to get them passport, you never had kids. You have one child, you want to send them to Gambia, the next minute you know you need a visa for them. Last minute, you want to take care of that, the embassy is nowhere to be seen or to be able to help you. What efforts are you making to address some of those challenges?
I think you are referring to the past, because for now, this is not a problem. You know, for now, you know, in the past, people don't take their phones in the embassy. I can understand that. Because, you know, kind of they are accosted by callers, you know, and harassed on the telephone. Maybe that was the reason. But now, my mobile number is everywhere as an ambassador, and all my staff, everybody calls, not only the receptionist, but they call me directly, and I call them back. When I see missed calls on my mobile, I call back. And the same thing my staff are doing now.
That's very good.
I think if you do your survey with the community, you will know that maybe what you are saying now is referring to the past. But for now, we don't have that issue. Of course, in terms of expansion of numbers in the embassy, it's something that we will welcome. You know, but it's not easy. The Gambia is a developing country, our economy is small, and it's very expensive to maintain embassies. So we will have to try it for now, but I'm sure in the future when the oil comes out and more money is in the revenue, I am sure we will strengthen the embassy and bring more people to work.
So what about the issue of having councillors or representatives in different cities that have large concentration of Gambians? I live in different cities. I live in Alaska, Seattle, Atlanta, North Carolina, and I also traveled across the US virtually. And there are some states, at least 5 to 10 states, that have over 1,000 Gambians, 2,000 or more. I mean, but there is no service, consular service in this place. Everything is centralized in DC or come towards New York. I don't know if anything even happens in New York besides the UN mission there. So Senegal and other countries have consulars and services in different cities. Is the embassy looking into any of these?
Absolutely, we have our plans on that. Is almost
place like Seattle, especially, that is so far away.
Not only Seattle. I think we are looking at 5 states for now.
Okay.
We are looking at Seattle. We are looking at Atlanta. We are looking at Minnesota.
Good.
We are looking at Raleigh,
North
Carolina, and New York.
New York. Okay.
And of course, Maryland itself. So these 5
include Texas, if you can.
Yeah, but we want to start with these 5 for now.
You
know, to appoint honorary councils, so that they will help us, you know, provide complementary coverage, you know, for our citizens in those countries. So that's something that we are almost.
Are those appointments politically motivated?
No, they will not be politically motivated because the way we intend to do it, I know, the way we intend to do it, we want to work with the Gambian communities themselves.
Okay.
So we work with them, you know, to identify suitably qualified candidates. You know, we give them the terms of reference for the position. We give them the qualifications that are required for the position, and then we work with them, and then, you know, identify some names. We can get those names and then appoint the most responsive one among them.
No.
So it will not be.
No, okay. Well, we are monitoring and looking at those, and that would be something very good that Gambians have been yearning for and calling for.
Very soon.
I mean, so far, your biggest achievement since you took over the embassy and your challenges, because time is against us. What are your biggest achievements?
My biggest achievement for now is our ability to engage with the Gambians.
Okay, which is very good.
So this is something I'm very proud of. We go everywhere. I've been here today. I've been to Atlanta. I've been to Raleigh. I've been to Minnesota.
Nice.
No, not Minnesota. Madison.
Madison, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I've been there. And my staff have also gone to other states too, you know, to meet Gambians. So we are putting together a program based on those engagements.
Nice.
And one of the issues is this appointment of honorary council.
Nice.
It's also coming out of those engagements.
Nice.
So that is something I am proud of. Number one. And then number 2, we are now putting together a database for the first time for Gambians across the United States. You know, it is very, very important. So we know who is where, and we are able to better serve you based on, you know,
knowing those numbers,
and you also know who we are. I'm sure you recall earlier this year when we first started at the initial stage of our administration. You know, a couple of, I think 20 or so people have been taken back to the Gambia.
Yes.
You know, there are a lot of noise about that because they have not been visited. They have not, nobody know who they are. Just bundle them up, you know, handcuff them and took them to the Gambia. It's because we don't know how to get to them. But now you're not going to hear about that anymore now. That's not happening now. Because now we are in touch with them and things have been done properly, and we know how to handle such situations so that they don't boomerang into that kind of embarrassing.
So what are your biggest challenges?
Resources. It's a big issue, and I can understand because it's not easy. Resources is a big challenge. We don't have enough staff, and mobility is not easy. You know, to travel around America is money, and it's not easy. You know, so sometimes we travel without, you know, our own whatever. So, but it's all part of public service, and I can understand where the government is right now. But I know everything is being done to ensure that, you know, our budgets be augmented so that we can effectively start our functions as embassy staff.
Last question to you before I let you this thing. President Barrow, where were you? And the people in the diaspora a lot are not happy with some of his statements, with the contribution that they made during the struggle and the fight to push out former President Yahya Jammeh. So a lot are feeling that President Barrow betrayed them. you as the ambassador here, if he's making such statements and you hear, are you advising him towards the way he talks and address in order to, because Bandlanko is simple sort of when he first came, he said the people in the diaspora contributed a lot. So now some of them are challenging when he said that a lot of people in the diaspora just wanted position, and because he did not give them positions, they get mad. So what is your reaction, and how are you helping him towards addressing those things? That will be my last question before I let you share your final words.
I know. You know, my responsibility, my mandate here is to, for the US, is to ensure that, you know, the Gambians who live in the US are able to understand exactly what the plans are for the government. So this is why wherever I visited, I take along with me the National Development Plan 2018-2021. That is something I discussed extensively with Gambians and showed them where they could also come in and participate. You know, Gambia belongs to all of us. Whether you are in the diaspora, you are at home. Whether you are a president, or a minister, or you are a cleaner, it belongs to all of us. And it's important that we all work together. You know, so we need to reconcile our differences. You know, there are a lot of different talks around. You know, this media explosion, this how do you call it, online.
Don't be surprised if some of what you said today is big and you are headline tomorrow you are front page in
I understand. I understand. This that the social media has completely changed the media landscape. So we can understand, and then everybody is your own journalist. Nobody can say anything. Which is good.
But some of these are things that he said, though. He asks. These are things that he said.
He says what he says, but he also say what they said, and that's how we move the country forward. Okay, you know, we don't agree with everything together, but it's important that I know there are a lot of things that bring us together as Gambians than the one that divides us. So those statements, those do happen, and they cause commotion here and there, but at the end of the day, we are all Gambians.
The argument is he's the president and should not be talking in a certain way or saying certain things.
I understand, and it's just like all of us, you know, and there are certain ways I should not talk, but sometimes I do, but like you too. So these things happen, but in the end, the important thing is we look at the big picture. How do we collaborate? How do we put aside our differences so that we all help develop this country we all call home? You know.
In 1 minute, you share your last word with the viewers.
Yeah, I would like to use this opportunity to try to reach out to the Gambians in diaspora, particularly in the United States. You know, to see our embassy as their partners in development. That we exist here principally because of the Gambians who are here. And that we are keen to reach out to you. We want to work with you. We want you to participate in what we do so that together we can help our country. Because I know that members of the diaspora here, they are people with experience, they are people with technical know-how, and some of them have resources too. So, you know, with those combinations, they can also help us to make qualitative change at home. So I want people to use positive energy, you know, to come together. We go back and see what we can do to further strengthen the transition, the positive transition that we are all on right now. Because some people say country is headed to the right direction, others say no, it's headed to the wrong direction. Those are the debates that we can always have. But this doesn't only talk. Let's come together also and take concrete steps and measures as citizens of the Gambia, so that together, you know, we can make, you know, lasting change in the country. And I think that's important.
Thank you very much. Well, that's Ambassador Dawda Fadera, the Gambia's current ambassador to the United States of America. You've heard how we engage him. We wish we had a lot more time to ask him some relevant questions, but of course time doesn't permit us. We actually appreciate him giving us the opportunity to talk to us out of his busy schedule, talking to us about these different things that we want to know. Of course, he's here in Seattle, Washington, to attend the third annual Seattle Gambian Cultural Weekend, which of course is taking place tonight at the Montlake Terrace Community Senior Center 23000 Lakeview Drive, Montlake Trace, Washington 98043. Of course, tonight we'll be having a cultural event where we'll display our Gambian cultural attire, have a lot of cultural performance that will be done by Gambians in Seattle. And of course, the event is open to the general public, male, female, adults and kids. It's going to be a jam-packed weekend of fun. Tomorrow night, of course, is going to be the Asubi night, and of course, it will still be display of cultural attire, cultural food and enjoyment. So, I mean, the ambassador will be there to talk to the Gambians and engage the Gambians in Washington. We appreciate him coming to the U.S. and him coming to Seattle. His humility definitely cannot be overemphasized, as you guys can see. His doors are open, and he's had tons of appointments with anybody that wants to talk to him. So please, we appreciate all of you guys that are commenting. It's unfortunate I couldn't read your comments because time is ahead of us. Follow us on the Gambian Talents Facebook page, Gambian Talents Promotion. If you haven't liked our page, like it. Follow us on YouTube, Gambian Talents Promotion, and of course on our website, GambianTalents.com. Thank you very much. This was the Fasa Fast Show. Till we come your way next time. Thank you very much, Ambassador Fadera.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. And thank you to the organizers of this event. Thank you to Dr. Diva, our host, and everybody else. I mean, thank you very much, sir.